Section 2.7 is decimal operations. I can evaluate expressions with decimals. The rules for performing operations with decimals are the same as those we learned for integers in Chapter 1. So, if we look here, I want to find the sum. We know that when we find the sum, the first thing we do is we take the absolute value of our numbers. We want to know how far away from 0 are they. 2.9 and 6.5. Then I compare my signs. Here, they're the same, so I'm going to find the sum. I like to put my bigger number on top always. The only thing different here is and it's not really different, it's just something we never thought about with integers. We have to make sure when we add and subtract that we line up our decimals. Okay, those have to line up. So here we are adding them. 5 plus 9 gives me 14. I put the 1 there. I bring my decimal right down and I carry the 1. So I put my 4 there, bring my decimal down, carry the 1. 1 plus 6 plus 2 gives me 9. So 9.4. I look back at my signs, especially the sign of that bigger number. It's negative, so my answer is negative. So I get negative 9.4. In B, I have subtraction. Remember, we don't want subtraction. We always want to change it to addition when possible because we can't use our properties with subtraction the same way we can with addition. So I'm going to change from subtraction to adding, and that means I need to take the opposite of what follows. Subtraction is the opposite of addition, so we take the opposite of whatever follows. Instead of a negative 42.734, I'm going to have a positive 42.734. And I did not change my first number here, my negative 25.38. Now, we don't care about this anymore. We've done what we needed to do. I'm going to take my absolute value of both numbers. Here I get 25.38, and here I get 42.734. I look back at my signs, negative, and this one is positive. So I have different signs. I subtract and find the difference. I always take my bigger number on top, so 42.734, and then 25.38. And again, remember, it's the decimal points that we want to line up here. And we are subtracting. I plug a 0 in as a placeholder if I need to. And now I subtract each digit, so 4 minus 0 is 4. I can't take 3 minus 8, so I need to borrow here. I'm taking 10 away, which gives me 13. 13 minus 8 is 5. 6 minus 3 is 3. I bring my decimal down. Again, I can't take 5 from 2, so I'm going to have to borrow 10 from here, which gives me 12 minus 5 is 7, and 3 minus 2 is 1. So now I look back at my signs. Since my signs were different, I only need the sign of the bigger number. My 42 here is positive, so my answer is going to be positive. So I get a positive 17.354. Feel free to pause here and give this a try. First thing I'm going to do is take my absolute value of my numbers. I want just how far away from 0 they are. I don't care about the direction at the moment. Now I look back at my signs. They're both negative, same sign, so I'm going to find the sum. I'm going to take my bigger number on top every time, just so I never forget to put the bigger one on top. With decimals, again, make sure we line up those decimal points. And now I'm going to add. Bring down your decimal. Two plus 3 gives me 5, and 4 plus 1 gives me 5. Now I look back at my common signs, or at least the sign of my bigger number. It's negative, so my answer is negative. So I get negative 5.5. On 2 here, I'm going to take the absolute value of both of my numbers, 10.57 and 6.89. Now if I look, I have a negative and a positive. So I'm going to subtract. Bigger minus, again, we're subtracting smaller. We line up our decimals. And here I'm going to have to borrow again. I need to take a 1 from here, 10, to give me my 17. Got to borrow from here. So I have 10, and then I take 1 more away, which gives me my 14. Minus 8 is 6. And 9 minus 6 is 3. I look back at my signs. 10 is bigger, so I check 10. It's positive, so my answer is positive. And I get 3.68. Again, I have subtraction here. We don't want to keep subtraction, so I change to adding, and I take the opposite of what follows. The opposite of a negative is a positive 1.49. And I keep my 9.817. That did not change. Now, I take the absolute value of my number parts. Each term here, remember things added together. My signs are the same, so I'm going to add here. I'm going to go bigger on top, smaller on the bottom, and again we line up our decimal places. And because my signs were the same, I'm finding the sum. Put a 0 to fill. 7, 10, carry the 1, 13, bring my decimal down, carry my 1, and 11. I look back. 9 is bigger, 9 is positive, so my answer is positive. 11.307. Here we're multiplying and dividing. First thing I'm going to do is check my sign. I have a negative times a positive, which means my answer is going to be negative. Now to multiply, here I do not have to line up my decimals. Okay. I'm going to take 4 times 7, 28, carry my 2. 7 times 8 is 56, plus 2, 58. Put up my 5. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 5 is 12. Here we count our decimal places. I have 1, 2 numbers after my decimal. So in my answer I need 1, 2 numbers after my decimal. So I end up with a negative 12.88. Here in B, I have a negative times a negative. 2 negatives make a positive. Now I take my number with more digits I like to put on top just because it saves me a step or two, and we're multiplying. 5 times 5 is 25, carry my 2. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12, and 5 times 9 is 45, plus 1 gives me 46. Now I go to my next line, so I move over, put a 0 there to show that we're actually multiplying in our 4 spot here, in our 10s spot. 4 times 5 is 20, 0, put a 2. 4 times 2, 8, plus 2 is 10. And 4 times 9, 36, plus 1 is 37. Now, we go ahead and add. 5, 2, 6, 11, carry the 1 and 4. Count up our decimal places. I have 1, 2, 3 digits after my decimal, so in my final answer I have 1, 2, 3 digits after my decimal. And I end up with a positive 41.625. Same idea here. Negative divided by a negative gives me a positive. I take 29.07 and divide it by 1.9. Here we move our decimals first. I move it 1 spot to give me 19, so I move it 1 spot to give me 290, and I bring that decimal up. Now, 19 goes into 29 one time, and since I only went into 29, I put it above my 9 there. Gives me a 19 when I multiply back, and now I subtract. And I drop down my 0. 19 goes into 100 5 times. When I multiply back, I take 5 times 9, which is 45. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 9, and then I subtract. And I drop down my 7. 19 goes into 57 3 times. And I multiply back, 27. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. I subtract, and I have a remainder of 0. So again, don't forget that we brought that decimal up, which gives me a final answer of a positive 15.3. And for D, I have one negative, so my answer is going to be negative. I take 16.83 divided by 3.3. I'm going to move my decimal place 1, so I have a 33, and I have to move it 1 in here, so I have a 168, and I bring that decimal up. Now, 33 goes into 168 5 times. When I multiply back, 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 1 gives me 16. I subtract, I get a 3, and I drop down the 3. Now, 33 goes into 33 one time. I multiply it back, 3, subtract, remainder 0. So I get negative 5.1. Feel free to pause here and give this a try if you'd like. I have one negative, so my answer is going to be negative. I'm going to take 6.8 times 3.1. Here I only have 2 digits in each of them, but 3 and 1 are smaller and easier to multiply, so I put those on the bottom. 8 times 1 is 8. 1 times 6 is 6. I put a 0 because I move over to my 3's now. 3 times 8 is 24. And 3 times 6 is 18, plus 2 gives me 20. Now, I add those up. 8, 10, carrying my 1, 1, and 2. I look, 1, 2 numbers after my decimal, so 1, 2 numbers after my decimal, and I end up with 21.08, and it's negative. For 5 here, I have 2 negatives, so my answer is going to be a positive. I take 11.41, divide it by 0.7. I move my decimal place 1, so I have a whole number 7, and then I have to move it over, so it's a 114.1. Bring your decimal up. 7 goes into 11 once, so I put it above my 1 for my 11, my second one there. 7, we subtract, remainder 4, drop down a 4. 7 goes into 44 6 times, which is 42 when we multiply it back. Subtract, I get 2, drop down my 1. 7 goes into 21 3 times, we multiply it back, and a remainder of 0. So here, I get a positive 16.3. And in 6, I have one negative, so my answer is going to be negative. My first number goes inside. My second number outside. Now I move my decimal 2 places. So I move 2 places inside as well. I want my outside, my divisor, to be a whole number. Now I check. 217 goes into 158 0 times, so then we check 1,584. And it goes in there 7 times. We multiply back. 49, carry the 4. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 4 is 11. Carry the 1. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 1 is 15. We subtract. I borrow there, and I get 65. I'm going to bring down the 1, and I get 651. Now I look how many times 217 goes into 651. 3 times. 3 times 7 is 21, carry the 2. 3 plus 2 is 5, and 3 times 2 is 6. Subtract, remainder 0. So I have a negative 7.3. If you're not sure, guys, how many times I go into, try on the side a couple. I took 2 into 15 and knew that went 7 times, so that's why I tried 7 right away. I took 2 into 600, 200 into 600 and knew that was 3, so that's why I tried that right away. But it is a little bit of a guess and check there to start with. I'm going to stop this video here, and I will finish the section in another one.